So we got a question from, I guess it would be Ian, about paying dues.
Paying dues.
So let me see something first. Before we get going, we're supposed to mention to you, like and subscribe. Support us on Patreon. All right. Dues you guys had to do. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't think I ever stopped paying dues.
Yeah.
When I broke in with you, it was I did whatever you asked me.
Yeah.
Help with, concessions. We set up the ring. We tore it down. We put in the miles. If you asked me to go pick somebody up from the airport, I would go do that.
Exactly.
And I still, even after, I went and worked in Nashville and Puerto Rico, even when I would work for you, I would still help set up and tear down the ring. When I would work the random shot for you when I was in Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Yeah.
Heel set up the ring, baby faces tore it down.
Well, you never stop paying dues.
No.
But here's something that's kind of weird and questionable. This one here, and I don't know, this one seems kind of loaded and kind of, what would you call when someone's scoffing, when someone's bitter? Paying dues that you guys had to do, like if you refed. Everybody refed.
Yeah, that's another one. Ref.
Yeah, and we don't worry about whatever name they called us. I don't know. I have to say. I think one time someone called me Vito DeVito on a card. Like
you
I
called
gave a
me
shit.
a bunch of different stuff. I worked under a hood. I worked, whatever. Referee. That's the best way to learn.
You can probably hear CM Punk and Colt Cabana talk about it. They worked under a pantyhose for me their first probably 10 matches. CM Punk, is the Goon Squad. So you do whatever's asked of you. Wrestlers, go buy them stuff before the show. I'm going to go ahead and say somebody's being worked.
That's... Never did that.
No, but let's say Luke needed you to do something.
Of course.
If Luke needed something...
I'd drop everything and do it.
That's what I'm saying. He wouldn't ask us to do it. I'd just go do it. Now, in Japan, it was a whole different kind of paying dues. No bullshit.
Yeah.
They had to wipe Inoki and Baba's ass. Mm-hmm. They didn't wipe their ass with a bare hand, but if you ever watch like any of those shows like Spartacus, they had a stick, and on that stick was like a sponge, and they had to do that. They had to carry his bags, they had to lace his boots, they had to walk down with him, they had to take his gear. That was paying dues. Pat Tanaka will tell a story, and told a story, and I know it's not bullshit. His father sent him to Japan to be trained because he's Asian and American. He was born here. He's an American citizen. And his father was worried about him being a fuck-up, getting in trouble with gambling and dope. Mm-hmm. So he went over there and he was training for, I can't remember if it was Inoki or Baba, probably Inoki. And he was, starting to get over and playing the part. Well, he started sneaking out in the middle of the night to go gamble with Tokyo's seedy underbelly, and he thought he was getting away with something until they caught him. Well, they broke Patrick's femur with a baseball bat, and then he stayed there the whole time and swept and cleaned up the dojo with that broken femur until it healed, and then he commenced his training.
Yeah. I mean, the big part of it, most of it, especially when we broke in, was all about the miles, the driving we did. But I never looked at it as paying dues. I just wanted to be in the business. Yeah. I never looked at it like, I'm going to... Because like I said, I never stopped doing that. I mean, I never... Yeah. For example, this isn't really paying dues, but it was a different way back then. Like, for example, when I worked in WWE, I didn't even look at this as paying dues, but there was a hierarchy. The veterans had respect in the locker room.
Yeah.
So if you were in the locker room, there was enough chairs, you got your ass up and you fucking offered it to a veteran.
Yeah.
Also, like when you go overseas, I'd usually be on first or second. When I was done working that match, and I kind of got the iggy from some of the guys that had been there for a while, this is just what the younger guys would do. You'd go in the bus, you'd load up a cooler, put beer on ice, you'd bring it into the locker room, some of those veterans were done working, and then you'd sit around and have a beer with them, and they would, you'd get some street cred.
Exactly.
They would talk to you then, but that's, I never looked at it. I was happy to do it, Yeah.
Now, if you're going somewhere, and let's say today's locker room, there's no fucking Inokis or Babas in our locker room. I think a couple sadly are seeing themselves as Inokis or Babas. But if they send you there to, I don't know, get me a fucking candy bar or whatever, well, then you're the tard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're going and they say pick one up for me while you're there, that's different. But it's not to say, like, let's say I need an SD card. You know, go get the fucking thing and shut up about it. And plus, with you guys, when you broke in, there was one time, and I'm going to say it's probably the year you broke in, we shot 52 weeks of TV, and we also did 44 events. And I always led by example. I didn't exclude myself from setting up or tearing down the ring, so then I couldn't bitch. I could bitch at you guys that weren't doing it, but you were one of those people that I never had to do that with. It has to be done.
And that was the thing. That was how we kind of weeded guys out. Now, guys that, you know, the veterans saw something in you, they wouldn't push you necessarily like that. Now, the guys they wanted to weed out, then they treat them like a mark and run them out of the business.
Yeah.
But even like in Puerto Rico, for example, I never, you know, I was a young guy there. I was a young boy or whatever. I drove the van. I drove the van. There was no question.
Oh, I was always
I drove.
Yeah, Robert Fuller explained a lot of that to me.
But Luke, and the reason why, though, I didn't mind it. I mean, I would have done it anyways, but Luke sat shotgun so I could talk to Luke and pick his brain. Mm-hmm. But, like, Slash had been there. He'd been in the industry for a long time. Bison, even Shed had been there longer than me, so I drove.
Yeah. You know, so, I mean, dues have to be paid. You know, that's something.
I never looked at it as paying dues, though. I liked every aspect of the business. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I was paying dues, but I was happy to do it. It was all a part of it.
Yep.
I never looked at it as like a pain in my ass, like, oh, God, I got to do this or do that. It was just what you did.
Now, I can... Oh, is this still taping?
Should be.
I can remember... I don't know if it's still taping. It might have stopped.
We'll find out. Go to the...
Nope, that's not it. Well, it sucks if it isn't.
Right there.
Yeah, it's still taping.
We're taping.
No, I can remember this. I was in the industry, I don't know, a decade. And Vader tried to pull that shit on me. I told you that story, but I'll close with this story because it's entertaining and it's so legit. Winston he always was great with catering, especially compared to any other company, WCW in particular at the time. But once they rolled up catering after like the second tape, things were hard to come by, like beverages, water, for example. And Vader he tried to big shot me once, and he's like, well, will you go, can I have your water? And I'm like, no. You know, you know the drill. It's at the bottom of the stairs. Go get it, you know. Well, I was kind of hoping I could have yours. I'm like, well, you can have this one I hit off of, but I'd like that one. I go, motherfucker, they're at the bottom of the stairs. No, you can't have my fucking water. I'm not going to clip your toenails and wash your fucking panties either. You know what I mean? And then he tried to hard ass me, and I said, you know what, fuck you. I'm not afraid of your fucking ass. I know that ankle's trash, and that's the first thing I'm going to go for. So fuck you. Come at me, bitch. And Ron Simmons laughed like hell, you know, that I stood up to him. Now, that's a different scenario. You know what I mean? And he was an asshole, and he tried to big-time me. I don't think anybody on the indies has the right to big-time you. But if you're going somewhere and they ask you to get something, do it. Now, if I ask you or Casey asks you to do it, it's only you're a moron if you don't. You know? Yeah. So that's all I got as far as that question goes.
Yeah, I mean, and we did it, and I did everything with a smile too. There was no questioning, there was no debating it. I did it, and like you said, Luke, he wouldn't even necessarily ask you to do something, but if he was talking with something like, "Oh, we need this or that," I'd just go do it. Mm-hmm. You know.
Well, let's talk about OVW. I always hear about Danny was anal about having the chairs wiped down after tapings.
Yeah, we'd clean the building after we were done working.
And you were under WWE
Yeah, I was under contract.
And you cleaned the building. You wiped his chairs, you sold hot dogs, you
cleaned up the locker room, cleaned up the arena, took the trash out. Like I said, tore down the ring, put it up.
Okay, there's your answer.
That's the answer.
Don't forget, subscribe.